I hope you guys are having a great day so far, whether you've been in XRP for years or you're just starting to look at it. This video is going to show you everything you need to know to get started or to continue your path with XRP. I'm going to break it all down in a way that's clear, simple, and straight to the point. No fluff, no unnecessary details, just the real information that you need. Now, a lot of creators out there are going to keep throwing news at you, telling you what XRP will and won't do, where it's going to go. It's going to 10,000, it's going to $5 or whatever, making it seem like you need to keep chasing updates to understand what's happening. The truth is, once you get what I'm saying here, you'll be able to break this down to anyone. No hesitation, no confusion. Einstein always said that if you truly understand a topic, you can break it down to a 5-year-old and you'll just get it. Now I have a script. I'm doing this straight off the top of my head with just a few notes on a few things I want to cover. So if you appreciate content like this, please hit that subscribe button, like the video. I'd really appreciate it. All right, let's get into it. First, we need to talk about XRP's core function. Think about it as a value transfer system, a way to send money all across the world at minimal cost with maximum efficiency. Now, we have a system now that's very, very inefficient and also very costly. At any given moment, there's $30 trillion in this system, and it's called SWIFT. It's very inefficient, and XRP has a good chance or opportunity to replace this system. It reminds me of a story in the Bible, the Tower of Babel, where God made it so that everybody had different languages so they could no longer communicate and build a tower to God. In Babel, people spoke one language and worked together, but when their language was mixed up, they got confused and scattered. In the global banking system, banks around try to send money, but different rules, regulations, and codes make it complicated and slow. Both show how things that start simple can become messy when too many barriers are added. Now, this is what's happening right now in the financial system, is that every country, every region has different systems, but we try to tie all that together with SWIFT. And it's very inefficient, and it causes a lot of issues, it causes a lot of disruptions, and there's a great opportunity for XRP to replace that system. Now, think of it like this. Is another example is that an old house with bad plumbing. Now, without a system like XRP, it's like trying to move money through those old rusty pipes. Leaks everywhere, delays, costs piling up. But XRP is that upgraded infrastructure. It's seamless, efficient, and scalable. And the real kicker here is that as adoption increases, the demand for XRP's utility will only grow. By the end of this video, you can have a clear, simple way to explain to anyone without hesitation what all of this means and where XRP is going. That's my goal. So let's break this down. What does XRP actually do? How does it work? And why does it matter? Now let's get into it and talk about what's really going on with the financial system and how XRP is poised to solve a multi-trillion-dollar problem. Again, imagine it as a plumbing system, the money flowing through it like water. Pipes are old, rusted, and inefficient. Some pipes are leaking, money gets lost. Some are too hot, evaporating value along the way. Others are too cold, freezing transactions in place for days. For an efficient payment structure, everything has to be optimized. The pipes need to be direct, in good condition, and free of inefficiencies. But the reality is that our worldwide financial system is not built like that. It was built in a hodgepodge way where every single country built its own system, and we used rusty pipes and hodgepodge connections to connect everything. And it's been working okay for many years, but it's not the most efficient way. And it costs a lot of money, a lot of labor, and a lot of time to get all of this money transferred across the world. The financial system isn't built for efficiency. It's actually built to make money from the inefficiencies. A lot of money is made by many organizations all over the world because value cannot transfer fast and cheaply. Now, let's say you want to send money from the UK to the US. Let's say you want to send $1 million to the UK and you live in New York City. It's cheaper and faster to get on a plane and fly it there. With the current system, it has to go through a maze of middlemen, correspondent banks, and outdated systems. This process is called the cross-border payment system. It's unnecessarily complicated. But here's the key. Banks profit greatly from those complications. Every day, every extra step, every fee, some middleman is making a cut of that. Just like McDonald's. Do you know the real reason why McDonald's ice cream machines are always down? It's not because they can't find the parts. It's not because they don't have the right people to fix it. It's because they have a contract with the manufacturer that only the manufacturer can fix those machines. So what that does is that it causes delays in the machines getting fixed because they can only use that provider. So that causes McDonald's to make less money. That causes the customers to not have access to the products that they want. But the company itself makes more money. That's a company or a business that's built to profit off an inefficiency. It's the same thing with finance. The system isn't broken by accident. It's broken because somebody out there is profiting from fixing it. Now, who pays for that? You do. You pay higher transaction fees. You pay time, 3 to 5 days for your money to clear in some situations, sometimes up to 6 months. You pay by relying on middlemen just to get your own funds from point A to point B. But as long as the system is making money this way, what's the incentive to change it? That's the core issue with traditional finance. What's the solution? This is where XRP comes in. Now, you've probably heard people hyping up XRP online, especially since the big increase in price since Trump's election, throwing out big price predictions, 100,000, 10,000 in a day. Now, some of it is possible, but some of it is highly unlikely. But let's forget about all those predictions for a second. You focus on utility. Every great business solves a real problem. Netflix solves boredom. Uber solves transportational access. Airbnb solves the short-term rental problem. The bigger the problem, the bigger the business. Cross-border payments, that's not a billion-dollar problem. It's a quadrillion-dollar problem. That's where Ripple comes in, the company behind XRP. They're essentially the next generation plumber of the financial system. Instead of these inefficient, leaky, outdated pipes, they're creating a direct, seamless flow of money across borders. There's going to be no delays, no unnecessary fees, no middlemen taking a cut at every step. Let me clarify something. XRP is not a token, it's not a coin, it's code. It's an algorithm designed to act as bridge currency. Let's say you're in the UK again, you want to send money to somebody in India. Right now, that process requires you converting USD to that country's currency through multiple intermediaries. With XRP, the process is instant. Your United States dollars will convert to XRP, transfers in seconds, and will convert back to that country's currency on the other end. One step, no inefficiencies, and no leaks, and no middlemen profiting along the way. That's why XRP is such a massive deal. And there's something else. Ripple's stablecoin, RLUSD. RLUSD is built on the XRP ledger for incredibly fast, low-cost transactions. It increases XRP demand by improving liquidity, driving transactions, and helping XRP's role as a bridge asset. And every single transaction burns XRP, reducing the XRP supply over time. XRP is worth tens of trillions of dollars, and many people truly do not understand. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how money moves, something that's never been done at this scale before. Why does this matter? Because adoption is coming. You have to understand change takes time. But when you see trillion-dollar industries built on inefficiencies and a solution that eliminates those inefficiencies, what do you think will happen next? The incentive to adopt XRP is inevitable. The only question is how long before the masses catch on. That's why we need to focus on utility over hype. It's not about hoping the price skyrockets overnight. XRP isn't some meme coin. XRP isn't some hyped up coin. XRP is one of the few coins in the world that actually solve a real-world problem right now. Understanding the problem that XRP solves and why makes it an essential piece of the future financial system. So that's the big picture. Next time somebody asks you what XRP actually does, now you have an answer. If you got value from this, share it. I would love for you to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Now, while everybody else is out chasing hype, meme coins, and whatever the next hot Tua coin is, the ones who understand utility and use case will be ahead of the game. As banks are still running an outdated system from 40 years ago, think about it. When you send a wire transfer, your money does not go from the first bank to the second bank, bank A to bank B. Instead, it bounces around multiple banks and middlemen, trying to find a path to complete the transfer. Traditional money transfer systems like SWIFT, MoneyGram, and Western Union are known for being slow, expensive, and restrictive. One of the biggest issues with these systems is that not all banks are connected to the same network. This means that when Bank A needs to send money to Bank B, and they don't have a direct relationship, the transfer process becomes even more complicated. More often than not, the transaction must pass through multiple intermediary banks, each searching for a common network connection to bridge the transfer. This is why international wire transfers can be costly and time-consuming. Each stop along the way slows things down and adds extra fees. Now imagine trying to send money from Japan to Nicaragua. Banks in Japan do not deal with Nicaraguan currency, so they convert it into US dollars first and swap those dollars for that currency. More steps makes it slower, more expensive and less efficient overall. Now that's where Ripple comes in. Ripple is a network built to move money as fast as the internet moves money. Right now, the internet moves at the speed of light. Why can't we have a financial system that's that fast? The internet itself runs on a system called a protocol. That's why we have to type in HTTP before going to a site address. It's called Hypertext Transfer Protocol. We let the computer know that we want to use that particular protocol. There are other protocols such as FTP, File Transfer Protocol. Just like the internet runs on HTTP, Ripplenet has its own protocol, the XRP ledger, to connect banks and financial institutions worldwide. Instead of using outdated systems like SWIFT, Western Union, banks can use Ripplenet to send money almost instantly with lower fees and a lot faster. Ripplenet operates on a framework known as the Ripple Transaction Protocol, RXP. The network consists of validators, computers distributed globally that maintain a shared ledger of asset ownership. These validators ensure every transaction follows the RXP rules. Anyone can operate a validator, just as anyone can run a Bitcoin node to support the Bitcoin network. Businesses looking to access Ripplenet do so through gateways, entry points to the network, typically managed by banks. These gateways function like traditional financial institutions, granting users access to the Ripple ecosystem, similar to how banks provide access to the broader financial system. Ripple was originally created in 2004, but quickly evolved in 2012 when they founded Ripple Labs. Unlike Bitcoin, which is built for individuals, Ripple is specifically built for banks and payment networks. But how does all of this even work? Ripplenet uses a system of validators, which are computers on a network that keep track of transactions to ensure everything runs smoothly. Anyone can run a validator, but the majority of validators are financial institutions. Businesses can access Ripplenet through gateways, which is like a port, a door, or an access point to the network. It's very similar to how banks let you access traditional financial systems. The crazy part is that what gives Ripple so much potential is that if your bank adopts Ripple's technology, you wouldn't even know what was happening. Just like when people send money now, they don't know about SWIFT. They don't know about 256-bit AES encryption. They don't know how the bank moves money around the world. They don't know how text, images, and videos move around the internet. They just know that when they look up an old episode of Seinfeld on Netflix, it just starts playing. Nobody cares how it got there, what systems it used, and how efficient it was, unless you see buffering on the screen. That's when you start to care. Nobody cares about what's happening behind the scenes. Just like this example, your money could be moving through the XRP ledger, and you wouldn't care and you wouldn't even know. We've talked about what the XRP ledger is, but what about XRP? What is it really? Now, Ripple is the underlying system, and that system supports two currencies, XRP and IOUs. IOUs are like digital IOUs, same name. They represent a promise to pay a certain amount of money or assets in real life, like US dollars, gold, or even things like airline miles. But IOUs depend on trust. Whoever issued the IOU has to eventually pay it and make good on it. Now, on the other hand, XRP is a cryptocurrency that moves money without the need for middlemen. Now, if a bank wants to send money overseas, instead of dealing with multiple banks, middlemen, intermediaries, currencies, conversions, all the bank has to do is convert those funds into XRP, transfer it instantly, convert it back into that local currency on the other side, and everything flows perfectly. Now, unlike Bitcoin, XRP isn't mined. All of the XRP that will ever exist were created from the beginning. Transactions on the Ripple network are validated by a group of trusted nodes that reach consensus instead of using mining like Bitcoin. This allows XRP to process transactions ridiculously fast in 4 seconds compared to Bitcoin, which takes about 10 minutes. It also handles 1,500 transactions per second, while Bitcoin can only manage about 7. So how does XRP validate transactions? Well, instead of mining like Bitcoin, transactions on the XRP ledger are verified through a unique consensus process. Here's how it works. When an XRP transaction is broadcast across the network, validators, which maintain the network, vote to determine whether the transaction is valid. When a validator receives a transaction, it consults with other trusted validators, and they collectively decide on its validity. If 80% or more of these validators approve the transaction, It is recorded in the Ripple ledger. Each validator relies on a unique node list, UNL, a customized set of trusted validators that it refers to when verifying transactions. The composition of a validator's UNL is entirely up to the operator running the validator, allowing for flexibility and decentralization in the Ripple network. Now, is XRP a good investment? That's what everybody wants to know. In order to answer this, we have to talk about the fundamental shift that's coming in how money moves, something that's never been done at this scale before. Now, why does this matter? Because it could take time, and there could be hiccups along the way, but adoption most definitely is coming. And you have to understand that change takes time. Now, the internet took nearly 30-40 years to become what it is today. Originally, it was thought up in the 60s. It came to fruition in the 80s. It wasn't until the 90s until it was made easy enough and accessible enough that the average man could use it. And then it took another 10-15 years before businesses and daily life started to shift online with the rise of social media and e-commerce. Now think about this, the first mobile phones appeared in the 80s, but they were bulky and expensive. It took until the early 2000s that mobile phones became used by the masses. Now, speaking of mobile phones, did you know that Kodak invented the first digital camera in 1975? But that technology didn't even take off until the 2000s when they added it into mobile phones. Now, in regards to XRP, when you see a $1 trillion industry built on inefficiencies and a solution that eliminates these inefficiencies, what do you think is going to happen next? The incentive to adopt XRP is inevitable. Now, the only question is how long before the masses realize this? That's why we need to focus on utility over hype. It's not about hoping the price skyrockets overnight. XRP isn't some meme coin. XRP is not some hyped up coin. XRP is one of the few coins in the world that actually right now solves a real-world problem. Understanding the problem that XRP solves is what makes it an essential part of the future financial system. Now, the ones who understand this are going to be well ahead in the game. The people who don't will be left behind. Now, let me know what you think in the comments. If you want me to make another video, put that in the comments as well. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you subscribe and like the video.